Okay, so today's episode is actually a movie review, which is kind of nice because I haven't been doing many of those lately or TV show things. But today we're going to be looking at The Pumpkin Carver, and that is a movie from 2006. It's a horror movie, obviously. So I'm also going to be talking about towards the end here a horror movie concept inspired by the Pumpkin Carver. So I'm going to add a little bit of an interesting twist to this episode because I'm going to have a concept of my own that you could, examine and see, hey, is that a good horror movie concept? Maybe I would want to see that movie. I don't know. I think I think it's an interesting idea. But anyway, The Pumpkin Carver is a 2006 independent slasher film directed by Robert Mann. It falls into the realm of low-budget horror with a blend of comedy, catering to fans of campy Halloween-themed movies. So, what's the story about? It's a movie that revolves around Jonathan and his sister Lynn, who relocate to a small town following a traumatic Halloween night incident where Jonathan accidentally kills a prankster while trying to protect Lynn. And here's the kicker. A year later, they attend a Halloween party where a masked killer begins to terrorize the attendees. Imagine that. And I'm sure you can expect some moments where things are revealed and some maybe plot twists or whatever. I thought the movie was all right, and I think a lot of people out there wouldn't like it, and that's it's one of those things that it'd be hard for me to actually sit down and defend this movie because it's actually not particularly good. But for some reason, I thought it was okay. I think the movie Hellfest sounds better from 2018 because it takes place at an amusement park, but I haven't yet watched that one. Maybe I'll never even get around to it. But this movie, it's it's pretty good if you want a cheesy Halloween themed movie. The killer has an affinity for carving pumpkins in people's faces alike, leading to gory and creative deaths. Or maybe they're not so creative. I'll let you be the judge of that. You won't like this movie if you think, I'm not really into Halloween. I don't quite understand it. I'm not a fan of scary things. I find them off putting. That's not going to be the type of movie for you then. And to be honest, you probably won't like this movie, as I said, even if you're a fan of all things spooky. You're probably going to watch this and think, well, this is not very good. Still, like I said, I kind of liked it because I sometimes like crappy movies for reasons I can never adequately explain. Maybe it's just maybe the themes and the style. The film plays with classic slasher tropes, including masked villains, jump scares, and a kind of high body count. As is common with the slasher genre. It leans into its campiness, and it's notable for its emphasis on Halloween iconography. I kind of got those words almost jumbled up. But Halloween iconography, if we want to use some fancy big words there, it makes use of pumpkin imagery and carving as both a motif and a source of horror. It kind of reminds me of the intro to Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, not the Rob Zombie one or any of the 2000 era ones. And despite the thematic creativity, the Pumpkin Carver is known for its cliche plot points and over the top elements that make it appealing to fans of B movies or cult horror. And it didn't have the that great of a reception. It didn't garner significant critical acclaim, and is often regarded as at best a fun albeit forgettable addition to the genre. And sure enough, it's not like I'm gonna break my neck to see this movie again. But maybe if I want to put something on and like just relax or whatever, I'll put it on. It could be a sleep aid, to be honest. Not necessarily in the most negative sense, but in the sense that you're probably gonna shut your brain off a little bit when this is going on. Sort of like Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Back when I worked at a store named Shopco, I used to watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force quite a lot. The night before I would go in on the early morning shift, and it helped me sleep. I think a movie like this could do something similar. It's struggled with mixed to negative reviews due to its low production quality, uneven acting, and predictable storyline, which potentially ruins any of the suspense if you take it seriously. But if you're a horror fan, I think you already know what movies to take seriously and which ones not to. And you probably don't take horror movies that seriously on average anyway, because you know that in a lot of these things there's some cheesy elements, and this one makes that no secret. But I will say it has gained a modest following among fans who appreciate cheesy horror films that embrace low budget limitations. So I should mention the cast. I mean, you could always look it up on Wikipedia or IMDb, but it does star Michael Zara as Jonathan Starks. You have Amy Weber as Lynn Starks, his sister. David J. Wright is Alec, the party host, and there's some annoying party goers as well. Um, I'm not going to name names. You can look those up, on IMDb or whatever. There's also my favorite person in the movie, Terrence Evans. He plays a supporting role as a crazy and creepy old man who can't stop talking about pumpkins and carving related violence. He's definitely one of the strong points of this movie, and possibly the reason that I would consider watching it again. I think he really, I hesitate to say that he elevates the movie, but he comes close to it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where if he wasn't in it, it wouldn't be quite as good. And I think most people out there would agree with me on that one. So go ahead and look for this character. He's sort of the creepy, spooky old man, kind of like in Pet Cemetery or Crazy Ralph from Friday the 13th. So, the film capitalizes on the holiday themed horror niche. I almost said cliche again, but I wrote down niche. I'm so used to trashing this movie, I guess. But it does have a dedicated fan base, that horror niche. So I think a lot of people who like these movies that deal with pumpkins and Halloween might want to check this one out just for that reason. And the pumpkin carving aspect adds a unique twist, making it stand out visually, even if the overall execution doesn't elevate it above similar slasher entries. This is obviously not going to be like Halloween, although I would assume there are some people who would prefer this over some entries in the Halloween franchise, and that would include Halloween Ends, which I wanted to like that movie, but I don't know. I just think it went awry, and I did review that more fully when I had my brother Ryan as a guest on this podcast. So go ahead and seek out that episode if you can. And the Pumpkin Carver might be enjoyable for viewers looking for light, campy horror to watch during the Halloween season, but it isn't considered a standout in the genre. And that includes horror movies from the 2000s. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of people who are like, oh, yeah, the Pumpkin Carver. What a masterpiece. What a memorable uh, film from the 2000s. No, I don't think too many people are exactly lining up to see this one. But I hesitate to even say it's much of a horror comedy because it's not really that funny. It has a few moments that might make a person laugh, but you know, it's just one of those things. All right, so now I'm gonna get to the horror movie concept that I partially came up with. Of course, you never totally come up with your own concept. You kind of borrow from things here and there. But this concept is called the Reapers of Twilight, and I guess it could either be a movie or a TV show. So anyway, the plot summary is like this. It's set across the mist-shrouded landscapes of New England. The Reapers of Twilight unravels over the course of three harrowing nights. The story follows Cassandra Holt, an ambitious and embattled investigative journalist known for tackling controversial stories that confront society's darkest underbelly. When a string of gruesome murders begins, each victim is discovered with an intricately carved pumpkin and a blood-stained knife lodged within their bodies. The eerie motif is a chilling signature that hints at an unhinged killer with a vendetta that goes far deeper than mere violence. So, as Cassandra immerses herself in the case, she uncovers that the killings are orchestrated by a shadowy, cult like group of serial killers known as the Reapers of Twilight. You know, that's the movie's title right there. And they're led by the enigmatic and malevolent figure known only as Salem. This cult seeks to dismantle and punish what they see as the core pillars of modern decay: superficial love, corrupted freedom, and fractured familial bonds. The targets are not random, they are influential figures, news anchors, celebrities, and religious leaders whose actions in Salem's eyes have propagated moral decay and societal corruption. So there you go. That's a bit of a concept, right? How often do you hear of serial killers who target, you know, influential people like that? Oh, and you could add politicians into the mix too, of course. Although that, any story like this could be seen as risky because you might make it too realistic in its um, condemnation of these types of people in society. It could be like you're adequately conveying a real life person even though it's fictionalized or something like that. So you have to, be careful, unless you want to get like sued or accused of provoking violence or something like that. But you could also just throw away those concerns and just say hell with it. I'm going to make this movie, and if people don't like it, they can just buzz off. But anyway, back to the character of Cassandra. you know, Haunted by her own traumatic past of public humiliation and betrayal, Cassandra's investigation takes a terrifying personal turn. As the murderer's intent to set an example for future generations becomes clear, Cassandra must confront the darkest recesses of her fears. Enlisting the help of a reclusive and peculiar neighbor, Isaac Reeves, a former professor turned recluse with an unsettling knowledge of esoteric lore, she pieces together these symbols and clues hidden within the carved pumpkins. The duo faces twisted psychological games and cryptic messages left by the killers, each one crafted to challenge their grasp on reality. It could be sort of like the Zodiac killer or something like that, I suppose, or any number of characters that either in real life or in other fictional stories, had left behind cryptic clues for people. But anyway, in a race against time, Cassandra battles against the Reaper's harrowing philosophy that calls for society to reset itself through blood and terror. The stakes intensify as she unearths that Salem's motives are rooted in personal vengeance, stemming from his own life marked by betrayal and neglect, reflecting an almost poetic parallel to Cassandra's past. So she might end up, kind of sympathizing him a little bit, or sympathizing with him a little bit. I think I jumbled those words up too. But anyway, the film crescendos in a spine chilling climax as Cassandra fights to prevent a catastrophic ritual designed to plunge society into chaos and fear. The revelation that the cult's manifesto has resonated with disenchanted individuals online points to an even greater threat, an ideological contagion that may continue to spread regardless of whether Salem's own twisted plan is thwarted. You know, that's like that has parallels in the modern world in the modern media landscape, doesn't it? Social media has kind of become antisocial, and I think this film could touch upon that theme. So, The Reapers of Twilight is more than just a tale of horror, it's a searing commentary on the collective dissatisfaction and psychological strain of contemporary society. It forces the characters and the audience to confront the boundaries of morality, vengeance, and the fragile veneer of order that holds communities together. The movie leaves an interesting question. In a world teetering on the edge, who holds the power to shape tomorrow? The few who act or the many who remain silent? That's really one of the spookiest questions of all. So, anyway, let me know what you think of the Pumpkin Carver and my little movie idea there, or a TV show idea, whatever the Reapers of Twilight would actually be. Anyway, that's about it. Have a nice day and avoid the Reapers of Twilight.